Hello, my name is Andrew Jenks. I'm the instructor in FNRM 3131, Intro to GIS in Natural Resource Management. I can be found in my office in Green Hall, which is 215 Green Hall, and my office hours are from 1 to 3 p.m. on Mondays and Tuesdays. And I also have office hours from 8 to 9 on Wednesdays via the Google Hangouts. Now we have students that are both in person and online, so I'm trying to have both office hours for the in-person students and office hours that are available for the online students. However, most people seem to contact me through the email when there's questions or concerns with the class, and that's just fine. I'm at ajenks@umn.edu. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about a few topics today just to get some mechanics out of the way and talk a bit about our content and motivation. And now what we're going to do in the class is introduce you to a vocabulary and help you develop skills to understand the methods and technology of GIS. And that will allow you to develop a type of conceptual understanding of GIS that you'll actually employ, test, or use on within software in the class. And now what we're trying to do is to help you learn how to organize and information to solve and the tools to solve spatial problems. Now there's some best practices and there's some not so best practices. We're trying to help you learn a toolkit using the ArcGIS software to very effectively solve spatial problems, especially as they relate to natural resource issues. Now, we don't get into the class into predictive knowledge in the class, but that is a common application of GIS at an advanced level, is to take the basic skills, the basic spatial analytical skills, and then use those to build predictive models. And I just put this slide in just to sort of show you where this could go within later classes. Now, in this class, it's offered both online and in person, and that might be a little bit confusing to you, but it's the same class. And what we found is that because we use a textbook that was written by Dr. Paul Bolstead specifically for this class, that we're able to offer the class in this online, in-person dual fashion. And really the center of the class is around the textbook. And it's a very detailed textbook which we use every chapter of. And we have some lab exercises that help apply the concepts covered in the text. And the students can access the material either online or in person or any combination of the two. So that if you start out in the in-person session and you find that you want to switch to the online, that's fine. You don't need to change your registration. You just need to turn in your work. And the same is true if you're in the online and you have an opportunity to or have a need to actually come in and go over problems in person. That's great. So it's either way, and it's the same material centered around the same text, the same tests. It's the same either way. Now, this is the textbook, and it's very important that you get the 5th edition of this. There are many versions of it out from the 1st and 2nd and 3rd. We've been teaching with this with this text for probably 16 years now. And but the 5th edition is what we're using for this class, and so getting earlier versions, you'd be missing important sections of the text. So get the 5th edition of the text, and there is an online electronic version of it that you can acquire from the publisher if you wish. Now the textbook is supplemented by software, so we have lab exercises that actually help you understand some of the concepts that we cover in the text. And the lab software, we're using ArcGIS software, and you can use it in any of the U of M computer labs. That's probably the common way for the in-person students, is to use the labs at the university. And our main teaching lab, where our labs are conducted, are Skoke 35 on the St. Paul campus. but the other areas, other labs within the University of Minnesota have ArcGIS, and you can use it. Just make sure that you're using, you understand which version you're using. Some versions are a little bit different, and their compatibility between the versions might give you a little bit of problem. But it's you can use it at any university computer location and access the information from our class web page at that location. Now, probably the preferred approach is to use the virtual network, and that would be using a computer at your home that would be a Windows computer or a Mac computer, that you would be using a browser, installing some software on your Mac or your Windows computer that would allow that browser to tap into a university computer where ArcGIS is running for you. And that's probably the best way to get a real powerful computer resource available to you and have things set up quite easily. It's really the preferred approach to using this when you're not on campus and in a lab, in one of our teaching labs. Now, the other approach is to install the software at home. Now, this only works on Windows computers. It's not a Mac option for the third option. It's Windows only, but I'll be sending out the first week in class on Thursday. The first week in class, I'll be sending out a letter explaining all the options for the software within the class. So, now the next step is to talk about the mechanics. Now, we have lectures and labs each week. Now, in the online version, you can just see the lecture, watch the lecture at your leisure, and then do the lab exercise. In the classroom environment, we have the lecture on Monday and the labs on at the end of the day on Monday, from 6 to 8 on Monday, or during the day on Tuesday or on Wednesday. And you're welcome to come to any lab you want. We're really quite flexible. There'll be tests every couple of weeks covering the topics in the reading and the lecture. And what we try and do in the lecture is to just amplify the material in the reading, help explain it. People learn in different ways, and that some people can read it and pick it up. Some people like to hear it explained. Some people like to see it. And so we try and provide resources in all those different medias, the different approaches. Now, the important thing is to do the readings in advance of the lecture and the labs. So you want to stay up on the reading, and there's quite a bit of reading to do. So you really want to dig into the book early and get a good study approach. And the best thing you can do with the book is to do your reading, and there's exercises at the end of each chapter, the questions at the end of each chapter that really help test your knowledge, whether you understood the text chapter. And so I'd really urge you to read the text very carefully and then do the exercises at the end of the chapter. And if you can't understand anything, come in and ask me, or get back into the chapter and reread and puzzle it out. And that's the best way you can really prepare for the tests, is to really thoroughly understand the material. And the questions at the end of the chapter really help develop that expertise. Now, there's answers to the odd questions in the back of the book for the questions at the end of each chapter, so you'll be able to check your work. Now, all these materials are available on our class website, and that's really the driving force between the book and the website. Those really are the two driving forces in the class that you really want to understand real thoroughly. And this is our class website, and the easiest way to get at it is just to Google FNRM 3131. You can pop right into it, and you'll see the syllabus, our Moodle link, and there's a second web page, a lab page that I'll talk about in a second. Now, all this is organized by week, so you could see what you do the first week, the second week, the third week, so on. Here's the readings that are for that week. Here's the lab material and lecture, both in the printed as well as the videos of that, some supplemental material, and then what's due, what you have to pay attention to for that week. Now, there's a syllabus, and the syllabus is here at the top of the website. This is the syllabus. You want to take a look at it very carefully. It explains lots of details about the class that you'd want to understand, grading policy and so on. Now, the second page of the website, so the website has two pages, this main page and then the lab page. And this lab page explains the lab exercises week by week. And here we've got information about what we're doing in the lab. Then there's the actual lab exercise itself, okay, and some overheads that help explain the lab. Then there's videos which show specific skills that are used in the lab. You could watch some videos that support those skills. And here's where the data that you use for the lab. Now the data for the lab, you have to download and unzip. So this is a zip file, so you need to bring it down and unzip it to be able to be used within ArcGIS. And the instructions are very cookbook. I give you the answers in the exercise. So there might be 4 or 5 maps you do within an exercise, and I give you examples, exact examples of what you're shooting for. So there really is there's no secrets here. It's just about the learning the steps to actually complete that map and based on the examples and the keys that are given within each exercise. There's no hidden information there that you have to guess. Everything's all spelled out. Now, the class itself requires you to be reading on a regular basis, so that we have reading quizzes. And the way the reading quizzes work is that every lecture time, this is also true for the online, even though the online doesn't have a formal lecture time, is that on Monday at 4 o'clock, the reading quiz for that week ends. That's when it closes. So what I'm trying to get you to do is to read before that week. Do the reading before that. Get it done. Get the quiz taken. The quiz is worth 3 points. And it really helps check your understanding. Then based on that understanding and that reading quiz, then you would dig into the looking at the videos, or actually coming into the lectures, or and to really bring that information together, and then of course move into the exercise for that week that builds on those specific skills. So you want to take a look at the reading quizzes that'll be weekly. The first reading quiz, there's no deadline to, because nobody knows that it's due the first before the first class. So the first one has no closed deadline, but all the rest of them close at 4 o'clock on Monday. So you need to get the reading for that week done ahead of time. And there's also the tests. There's 5 tests in the class. They'll also be online and conducted through Moodle. And I've got forums on Moodle, which we can talk about a little bit, where you could ask questions, and get other students to answer. And I jump in on the forum and try and help answer questions also. So now Moodle, the main Moodle page. Moodle is primarily a repository for us, where you put in do your quizzes, you drop off your lab work, and you keep track of your grades. There isn't a lot of course material on Moodle. The course material is on the website. That's the primary place for the course material. But all the assignments are collected on Moodle. And the Moodle site is all week by week. You could step through it. I tend to go through by the assignments, directly into assignments or quizzes or forums. But you could go week by week. Now here I'm looking at the list of all the quizzes, and you could see here's quiz 1 for that first week, which is open. It doesn't have a due date on it, and you get an idea of how that works. You get 1 chance. It's 6 questions worth 3 points, 15 minutes, timed 15 minute, based on the readings of chapter 1 and 2. Then there's quiz 2 for the readings for the next week, and so on as you go along. Now you'll see as you look through this list, there's also the tests, the online tests, and the online tests are 1 hour. They cover a couple of chapters. Like this first test covers chapter 1, 2, 3, and they're 1 hour online. And I have the test open for about 4 days, and you're given 3 chances, highest score, and it's open book. So what that means is the tests are not easy tests. You really have to understand the material. You're not going to be able to thumb through the textbook, to be able to find the answers to the test questions. and the test questions are random, so that you'll get different questions your second occurrence or your second attempt and your third attempt. So you might get some similar types of questions, but you'll get actually different questions because there's a very large question bank. Now, assignments, there's a Dropbox for each one of the assignments that are the weekly assignments, and you'll use the Dropbox, and the assignments you do in ArcGIS you complete as PDFs, and so that each assignment there'd be 3 or 4 PDFs you'd create, and you'd drop them into the Dropbox. After you get all of them in, then you'd hit the Save Changes and submit them so they could be graded. Now, the labs are due a week after they're assigned. So basically, you've got almost 2 weeks from when they're assigned to do each lab exercise. But I need to penalize people if they're not getting them in on time. And I'm really going to have to watch whether people get behind, because getting behind is really the worst thing you can do in the class. There's just too much work, both in the reading and the lab exercises, to do blitz activities to catch up when you get behind. So, but if there's scheduling difficulties, please see me, call me, or drop me a line. I'm happy to work with you. We can work with any situation, but we just need to know. We can't just have you fall behind and try and catch up. That just doesn't work. Now, how you watch your points, I try and grade things as quickly as possible. So you need to check your Moodle points and watch your running total of Moodle. And there's no curve in the course. It's just accumulating the points. And if you get enough points for an A or a B, based on the grading, which I'll get to in a second, you'll achieve the grade you want. You put the work in, you get the grade. But you want to note that the running total here is of the percent of the work you've turned in. So really pay attention to this. If you've got 50% of the work turned in, you could have gotten 100% of the work you turned in, but you're still missing material. So you want to make sure you're doing your work, you're keeping up with your assignments, as well as watching the point total. Now, the point total in the course is 549 total points for the class, and that's what you're graded on. And this is the way they're comprised. There's labs, there's exams, there's homework and quizzes. And the labs, for example, I give you the answers in the lab instructions so that you should be able to achieve all those points if you're just careful and ask questions in the lab or ask questions through email and follow up through the online office hours if you've got any concerns. So the significant part of the course should be able to be achieved by just careful attention to the detail. Now the exams are a significant part, and as I mentioned, the exams are not easy in this class because we allow multiple attempts, highest score, and that we also have open book. And so we really have to understand the material. So a number of students have some challenges with the exams and have to really work at their exam taking skills and their reading comprehension. But you can get an idea of how this breaks out. There is also the reading quizzes that we talked about. Now, if you do get behind, there is some extra credit opportunities, so you can pick up some extra points. Now, in the class, I don't give an A minus. So we're talking about if you get 90% of the 549 total points, then you get an A, and you basically work out what percentage of the 549 you wind up to look at the grade you're shooting for. So it's all about a straight scale, no curve, and these are the grade ratings, and working on that 549 points. So you'd be watching the Moodle all the time to see how your points are and making sure you don't get behind on the lab work or the exams, obviously, or homework and the reading quizzes. Now, I've also got some notebooks on Evernote, some general blog information that you can follow up on. These are some interesting links. There's some internships and other things that I try and general university GIS activities that you might want to keep in touch with. So this wraps up our intro session. If there's any questions, please contact me. Thank you. Now the point total. We've got 549 total points in the class. That's what you're graded on. And you can see here that 210 are from the lab, the weekly lab, and that there's also some homework. And so between the two, almost half of the class is, or close to half of the class, is from work that you do in the lab, or you can work with and ask questions. So that you really should be able to achieve all those points. I give you the answers, and you just work through the process to get to be able to complete the assignment. So half is about is the exercises. Then there's the tests, and the tests are 45 points for the first 4, and they're an hour, 3 chances, highest score. It's spread over a 4-day, so you'll have all day Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday to take the tests. Then the final ends in final week, and it's worth 90 points, and it's cumulative. Now, these are the reading quizzes I've already spoke about. They're 3 points each. Now, if you need extra credit because you got behind on something, there are some optional exercises that you can avail yourself of that can bring in some extra points. Now, if you get, of the 549, if you get 90% or above, you get an A. I don't give out an A minus, so there's quite a number of students that really work at this and get A's and B's in the class. But you've got to put in the time, do the reading, thoroughly understand the material, and do the assignments, and stay current. And these are the percentages in the class. You just have to figure out what percent of the 594 you would fall into, and keep an eye on your grades. Now, I also have some blog information on my Evernote. I use Evernote to stay organized, and I try and put internships and all sorts of interesting U of M stuff on my blogs. If you want to keep up with those, these are the links. So that's it. If there's any questions, please let me know. Thank you.